Welcome to the SNN.Network Summer Virtual Event, the premier virtual event in MicroCap finance. Our next presenting company is Venzee Technologies. It is my pleasure to turn the floor over to John Abrams, CEO of Venzee Technologies. John, the floor is yours.
Thank you, operator. My name is John Abrams. I am Chicago-based. We are a Canadian company founded in Canada several years ago. I took over in 2019. What I'm going to tell you about today is the supply chain that is increasingly becoming digital, and supply chain has been in the news quite a lot in recent times as there have been fluctuations caused by the pandemic and all sorts of other items. Those are largely a function of the fact that much of the supply chain today, believe it or not, is manual. Venzee is the AI platform for product data. We are disrupting those manual processes with intelligence and a platform technology. So we'll talk about that in this presentation. First slide I want to talk about is really what we are at our core. We are a platform technology. So we are extensible into many different areas, and we are artificial intelligence based. So we were architected in the modern era of technology, whereas much of our competition is architected in technologies of the 1970s, or in some cases with things like EDI, which is a mainstay of some parts of supply chain, technologies that were architected and created in the 1940s. We are a disruptive solution. We connect any brand, so people that make things, to any retailer, places that sell things. And we do that anywhere on the planet, and we do that quickly and very efficiently. We are a SaaS platform, so we're high margin, monthly recurring revenue. And we are intelligent tech. So we displace human labor using machine-based intelligence. On the next slide, really the fundamentals of what we do. We connect those consumer brands digitally, often with an API, which is just a fancy way of connecting one computer to another computer. We connect that to Venzee, where our AI matches things like how color is spelled in the European fashion to how color is spelled in maybe the North American fashion or in a different language. We use AI to match those different attributes to what selling channels, what retailers need for that attribute to be represented as. So that sounds relatively straightforward, but if you're doing that over tens of thousands of products or tens of thousands of retailers, the complexities are massive. Humans can't keep up with that, and that leads to inefficiencies in the supply chains. Product attributes are the digital representation of a product. That is a fairly new concept, and it's one that Venzee was built to deal with, whereas a lot of technologies built to deal with various elements of the physical supply chain aren't created to deal with the digital side of a product. They were built to deal with the physical side of a product, how you put a product on in a box or on a crate or in a container ship. We are built from the ground up to deal with digital representations of a product or product attributes. Brands and manufacturers, as I talked about, struggle to connect and comply with all the different variations of sales channel requirements. So if Walmart maybe has let's call it 6,000 different categories, how those categories manifest to a brand who has to deal with the different attributes in each one of those categories, that can be daunting from a human perspective. We take that labor on, put it in the machine, and let artificial intelligence deal with the variables. We enable brands and retailers really to simply connect using a SaaS model. So you stick with Venzee because it performs, and we don't have heavy contracts or long-term engagements. We do feel that once a brand joins Venzee, they are not willing to change, and we've had zero churn as a result of that. So people stick with our SaaS platform because it has value and it provides them value over time. As I've said, technologies have been architected in the supply chain in a series of waves. The first wave occurred around standardization of basic attributes, really to provide more efficiency to a post-war effort in the 1940s. So 1948, in order for products to get into Berlin, because Berlin had been walled off post World War II, to be able to understand the weight of an item. Is it measured in kilograms? Is it measured in pounds? Is it measured in stone? How those attributes became standardized really occurred to pack products on a plane more efficiently in order to make the Berlin airlift in 1948 succeed. There are companies to this day, very large companies, Sterling Commerce, SPS Commerce, OpenText, that are architected based on those EDI patterns of the 1940s. That's great technology. It has a good function, but it is architected for a different era. Much as the second wave of product data was architected in 1972 in order to make more efficient the checkout process. So can we put a barcode on a product and uniquely identify that product for sale, as opposed to pushing the buttons on a keypad each time you want to check out a product. So today, we look at barcodes who have, they have done much to make checkout more efficient, but it's architected on data structures of 1970s. Companies like One World Sync and Gladson, which has become Syndigo, and Salsify are at their core architected around very, very old technologies. Venzee uniquely is in the third wave, as we call it, of digital technology for supply chain. We provide consumer attributes at infinite scale anywhere in the world, and we can do that because of our modern era architecture. How Venzee works on this next slide. In the pre-Venzee days, or using some of our competitor technology, you really need a lot of teams of people to communicate with teams of people at retailers. What Venzee does is we connect to the system, the technology at a brand, and we connect deeply to that system, and we use our connections with retailers to make that a machine-to-machine communication between the brand, the people that make things, and the retailer, people that sell things. So as opposed to using teams of people to try and keep up, we lean on the machine and artificial intelligence to keep up with all of the different variables that have to move from one side to the other, from the brand to the retailer. We call those our product a mesh connector. Those mesh connectors are the fundamental performance indicator. How many of those do we sell? How many do we have in the pipeline? Those are the fundamentals of how we know if we're achieving success. So our goal for the end of 2021 is to have slightly over 2,000 mesh connectors sold. We have a very robust pipeline. We are increasing our sales team even today. That is a healthy goal for the end of this year, and I'll share our KPIs, how we're performing against that goal in just a minute. Revenue recognition, there's a little bit of a lag as people buy a connector to a particular retailer. Let's say a brand buys a connector to Walmart. It takes a little bit of time to get that channel fully tested and fully operational. Venzee is a different construct for how those connectors work, or how a brand connects to a Walmart. So it takes a little bit of re-engineering of manual processes to embrace the more efficient and more rapid digital path to a retailer. So there's typically a 4 to 6 month lag as customers come up. That lag will decrease over time, but our revenues follow that 6 month lag as the testing and implementation of that channel occurs. So we'll talk more about that on the KPI slide in a moment. Our goals have been set out for 2022 as well, to have approximately 13,000 mesh connectors sold, and we are very comfortable that we are on the path to achieve those goals both for this year and for next year. We are a public company. We do release our key performance indicators on a regular basis, and just began to release some of our KPIs ahead of our Q2 announcement, which we will make later this month. Key indicators that we follow within Venzee and that we communicate publicly. How much retail inventory, meaning how many retail channels can we connect to? We have a target for that. How big is our sales pipeline? So how are companies coming in and requesting channels? How big is that pipeline that we have to satisfy? How many connectors have we sold? And then, of course, revenue, a very important indicator, and churn. How many people are leaving us because the platform didn't perform or they couldn't connect to a channel that they wanted? Churn, we'll start there and work backwards. Churn at the end of Q1 was 0, and we've maintained that churn for since 2019. So churn has been relatively low. As we scale, we believe churn will increase slightly, but I am and my team is of this environment. We are all seasoned supply chain veterans. So we understand that once you build your processes around a particular platform, very hard to change those processes. Working up from churn into revenue, we hit our revenue targets for the end of 2021. We hit our targets for Q1, and I can share with you that when we announce our revenue target for this quarter, we will again have performed on target for those. Again, we have a revenue target and a sales connector target, meaning how many sold mesh connectors. We have those targets set out for the end of 2022, and we are on target to achieve those. How big our sales pipeline is, the growth has been phenomenal in this area, and because it has far outstripped our current sales team, we are adding to our sales team as we speak. So more announcements on that are coming, as well as how many retailers do we have that we're connected to. We hit our targets in Q1 of over 400 active retail connections. That is what draws brands into our platform. Who you're connected with is important in this industry, and we're connected to more than any of our competitors. Next slide, how we make money. So if we have one brand and they're connected to maybe all 400 of our active mesh connectors, that produces a value. We calculate a lifetime value per brand. If they're connected to 400, that's a lifetime or a 5-year value of about $6 million US. So each brand is significant in terms of the value that they create for us. I won't get into the detail of that, but understand that large brands usually talk to thousands of retailers across the planet. To give you a sense of how big the retail landscape is, we believe there's about 850,000 unique brands or retailers on the planet that brands wish to connect to in some form or fashion. We will try and get connections to as many of those 850,000 retailers as we can. We target retail connections based on the size of the retailer and what our clients are asking for. So we aren't random in which retailers we connect with. We are very intentional about how we do that. The sector we're in is very hot right now, not just because supply chain is in the headlines every single day. It is, but it's hot right now because there are not a lot of tech plays going after making supply chain more efficient. So if you couple a lot of energy around what's going on in supply chain with the need to apply new technology to be more efficient, you end up with a lot of activity on the investment side. So several of our partners have been acquired just even this year in the last couple of months, but the activity has been increasing for some time. I've been in this space for 20 years, so I know most of these companies that have been acquired, In fact, my last company was acquired in this space, and most of our leadership team has been involved in at least one acquisition in this space. So it is a very, very active investment sector. Our team is, as I said, experienced in the space. You can dig into the bios with the team, as well as our cap table is clean. We don't have a lot of debt. We have endured the pandemic and reduced office space accordingly. We did that in a proactive way, and we have money in the bank. So good cap table. If you want to get a hold of me, you can reach out to me directly at any of these contact methods at the bottom of the page, or contact our IR teams. We have a U.S. IR team. We have a Canadian IR team, and also you can reach out to our marketing team if you want this deck or more detail on any of what we've talked about today. Thank you for your time. Look forward to engaging.